What up, sports fans? Waxon Wednesday, Jake Waxman, Tyler Lavalette, Two Guys Talk Sports. Let's rock and roll. Oh, man. Okay, so for those of you wondering, okay, what was that all about, Wax? It has everything to do with the Bears, okay? So, I learned yesterday, like everyone else, that they fired their offensive coordinator. That's right. Shane Waldron, goodbye. You're out. So, Shane Waldron will no longer be the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears after just a handful of games. Didn't even make it through 1 year. That's how bad things were. And, you know what? I can't blame Matt Eberflus for firing him because the offense had really sputtered, and against a 2-win New England team, you couldn't even move the ball effectively, and you couldn't even score some points, or actually at least, yeah, it was that bad. Yeah, the Bears couldn't get a touchdown, couldn't move the ball effectively. The offense sucked, and Shane Waldron was the biggest reason why. And you could see on the sidelines that Shane Waldron and Caleb Williams, they were not even talking to each other. It looked like they were ignoring each other. That was a bad sign. And, obviously, hey, it was the right move. But the reason for me reacting the way I am for this, it's not enough. No way. It wasn't just one head that needed to roll. It was more than one head. Two, at least. Matt Eberflus should have been going with him. Both of them should have been given the pink slip and shown the door. No. Yeah, that's right. Matt Eberflus should have been fired this week. I've been saying it. Like most Bears fans. But you know what? God bless the Bears. They got this tradition. We don't fire coaches during the regular season. We fire them afterward. Well, you just fired an offensive coordinator, so that's a coach. So in a way, they did do that, but it wasn't enough. And you know what? It's not just Matt Eberflus, but Ryan Poles also deserves a lot. You know what? He should be held responsible for this as well. Because you know what? It was his decision to keep Eberflus when he shouldn't have in the first place. You know what? 2 seasons was enough. Even going into the season, I had a bad feeling. Like, I did not pick the Bears to make the playoffs. And one of the reasons is because coaching. I just don't trust Eberflus. And you know what? Things are just not getting better. And even though they're going to have a different offensive coordinator this week and for the rest of the season, I don't see things getting much better. The schedule is brutal. You still got 6 division games, 6 NFC North games. So, while I do agree with firing Shane Waldron, it was not enough. Matt Eberflus should have been shown the door along with him. But you know what? Same old Bears. Same old problems. Offensive line can't protect the quarterback. Caleb Williams is... Look, I like Caleb Williams, but he's struggling too. He's overthrown... When things are going well for him, he overthrows receivers. So accuracy is a huge issue there, but the problem is also not his alone. I mentioned the offensive line. Even the defense is getting tired. Just a lot of problems. Receivers not getting open. And there's just so many problems with the Bears. And obviously it goes to the top. Not just with the general manager or the chairman. It goes to ownership as well. Once again, I am reminded that sadly, as long as the McCaskies run the organization, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Goodness. Ugh. This Bears organization is cursed. It just, no matter what they do, nothing goes right for them. But you know what? I could go on about how ownership needs to change, or just stay out of the day-to-day operations, but same old bad news Bears. And they're not going to be a playoff team. In fact, this team is worse than I thought. And despite all the talent they acquired in the offseason, it does not look like they've really gotten better. But we all know, but you know what? It's a talented team, but coaching, just a poorly coached team. And you know what? They were better off just firing Eberflus going into this week. But looks like he's going to last the rest of the season. Shane Waldron, of course, will not. I mean, I agree with that move, but Eberflus should have gone with him. It's as simple as that. It's another one of these times where you just are reminded about how hopeless being a Bears fan really is. I mean, I'm trying to have hope, but right now I don't have it. Maybe I'll get it back if something special happens. I just don't know. And my patience is wearing thin with the Bears. I mean, I'm a Bears fan because my Gramps was. He introduced me to the Bears. But again, just they made it a move. The Bears made a move, but they didn't do enough. That is my final statement on this subject. Same old bad news Bears. And speaking of the Bears, okay, leading into my next subject, that's not the only. There's problems. There's all sorts of problems with this organization. Not just ownership and not enough coaches or not enough heads rolling, but missing pieces as well. So, I'm going to tell you guys something. One of the key pieces for the Bears on defense this season, he has not played in about 5 weeks now. And that would be Jaquan Brisker, one of our safeties. An excellent football player for the Chicago Bears. He's been missing, or he's been out of action for 5 weeks. And a lot of that due to a concussion. He had concussion-like symptoms in the game the Bears played, I believe it was against the Panthers. Okay, and that was before the London game. The game they went and beat the Jaguars in London. Jaquan Brisker reported concussion-like symptoms, so he didn't play in London. And, oh man, but in the last few weeks since London and even after the bye week, he still has not returned to the sideline for the Bears. So, oh man. There's a lot I could say about that. Obviously, it's very concerning because he's one of the key pieces to this defense. So, this just tells me, all right, I'm not going to accuse him of, skipping out on the team or skipping out on playing because things are not going well for the Bears. I'm not going to accuse him of that. But what this tells me is either the concussion he suffered against the Panthers has become way more serious than many of us thought, or something else is going on with him. Like something else. Maybe not even just the concussion, but something else. Maybe he sustained another injury that we just don't know about. I just don't know what it is, but he's been missing, and the fact that you got something like this going on, for the Bears, it's their own Tua Tagovailoa situation, and of course, Tua just had his 4th concussion this year, and I'm kind of one of those people who thinks it's time for him to retire because 4 is way too many. But we could also be like Tua, Jaquan Brisker. Depending on how serious things are, or if it's way worse than he thought or anyone thought, this could be a situation where, from a medical standpoint, he may have to retire from football if whatever's going on with him continues to linger. Of course, I hope it's not a mental health issue. We just don't know what it is. He's been out with a concussion for about 5 weeks, and I've never heard of concussions. I hear can linger for a couple weeks, but it's very rare that they linger for 5 weeks. So either he's got a super concussion or something else going on. I'm not gonna speculate too much, but it's hurting the Bears, of course, on the defensive side of the ball. And what this could also indicate is maybe the NFL might not be being all that honest with us, the fans, about how significant concussions can really be and how it can impact a player's mindset. And concussions, they are dangerous. I know that. You don't want to get one of those because it can feel like your head's rattling for days on end. But I just, it could be the NFL hasn't been too honest. If this concussion of Jaquan Brisker's has gotten way worse over time, that's something maybe we haven't been told about, whether it's by the NFL. I just don't know. These are all. So all we can do is just guess. What's going on? We can only just wonder what is going on with Jaquan Brisker. And I hope he gets better. And hopefully he's able to play football again. But I really just have a bad feeling something way more serious is going on. Whether it's a concussion that's gotten worse or he sustained something much, much worse. Whatever it is, I hope to see him back on the field soon. But right now, and with the way the Bears are playing right now, I suppose it's take all the time you need then, because the Bears really aren't going anywhere, even if he was on the field. It's just one thing after another for the Chicago Bears. But with that being said, like I said, I wonder what's going on with Jaquan Brisker. I hope he's all right, and I hope he gets better. Hopefully, or I hope he gets the help he needs to get back on the field, and sooner than later, because the Bears need him. I mean, it's a very touching subject, especially when a player has been gone, like what at first was thought of as a concussion-like symptoms could be much worse than that, and or something else is going on. We just don't know with Jaquan Brisker because nothing's being reported too much. Again, it all could just be speculation, but there's a lot of thoughts that run in my head, especially like our concussions, our NFL-like concussions, more dangerous than being reported. That's another thing that I really just wonder. But I'll end this subject by wishing the best to Jaquan Brisker, and hopefully he is able to return to the sideline safely in a safe manner. Wishing you all the best, Jaquan. Get well. And finally, okay, so another NASCAR season's in the books, and Joey Logano got his third championship. First of all, congrats to him. He earned it, especially with the way this format is, all right? But of course, now I will say under the old points system, he would have been 15th in points. So what that says is, again, there's questions about legitimacy in NASCAR, mainly with this format. And in my opinion, it's illegitimate. It is not the best way to decide a champion, or it just does not decide, or it does not give NASCAR fans what they really want, and that's a deserving champion year in, year out. There's 2 years that I can think of where the guy who dominated the season went on and won the championship, and deservingly so, and that was Martin Truex Jr. in 2017 and Kyle Larson in 2021. Both those guys won a large number of races, dominated the season on consistency, and won the championship, regular season and the chase, of course, or the playoff format, of course. But there's very few years where the guy who looks like the driver to win it all this on the season goes on and wins it. So, yes, I'm a strong proponent of NASCAR changing its format. And you know what? I'm going to go more in depth as to what they should do. Okay, this is what I think they should do. And it's okay if you don't agree with me. Being a guy who grew up watching NASCAR and then stopped watching it because one of the big reasons, as I stated, was this format. So you're probably wondering, what would you propose, Wax? And it's quite simple. All right? No more playoffs. What I would do is 36 race points paying format. All right? And the best driver at the end of the year wins the championship with a couple twists, okay? The winner of each race gets much more points. Like, here's what I would do to go into specifics. Like, for example, I would put a 10 to 15 point gap between the guy who finishes first and then the guy who finishes second. And then a 10 point gap between who finishes second and third. So, let's say you give the winner of each race 60 points. Then the guy who finishes second gets 45, and then 35 to the third place guy. So that's what I would do. Like, reward more points for race winners. Like, much more. There needs to be a gap, especially for this many races. And then I would put, like, say, maybe a 5-point gap. Okay, so what I would do then is put a 5-point gap between, like, say, third and fourth, and then maybe like another 5-point gap between fourth and fifth, and then so I'm still kind of working out some details, but I would put gaps in between the points, and like between, say, 10th and 11th there'd be like a 2-point gap. So maybe I need to reward more points. So I don't have exact numbers at the moment, but that's just something that I would do and reward. So again, guy who earns the most points for each of the 36 races wins the title. And there would be a big gap, like I would say a 10 to 15 point gap between first and second. That is how you reward race winners, giving them many more It's simple math. And then another gap between second and third. And then I would I would even put maybe like a bigger gap between, say, the top 5 and the top 10, like 5th and 6th. Like, I would go like a 5-point gap or a 10-point gap between 5th and 6th. Okay, so that means I would have to change my number. So my plan isn't perfect, or my proposal isn't perfect. But a lot of this, I'm still crunching numbers in my head. So instead, let's say you award the race winner 100 points then. And then there'd be a 15-point, like 85 points for second, and then 75 points for third. Voila. And then there'll be and then from position, say, 11 through the rest of the field, you get a 1-point gap. So that's what I would do. There just needs to be gaps. Again, admittedly, I don't have a perfectly formulated answer, but I think awarding way more points for winners will help a lot. And you will see teams go for it more on strategy, like go for the wins and higher finishing positions more on strategy. You would see a lot of crunching numbers by the crew chiefs because they're trying to maximize their races and get as many points as possible. And you want to win these, and it will have much more value for winning these races. And also, I would reward points for, fastest lap, like they do in Formula One. I think that's a great thing. You get 5 points if you have the fastest lap in the race. And I also would recommend awarding 5 points for qualifying on pole. How about that? In terms of leading laps, I don't know if I'd reward points for leading a lap, but maybe the most laps, I'll consider that. And also, it's a lot to think about. So, simple points. So, back to, like, you could say the Winston Cup points format with a few modifications, with bigger gaps between top 5, top 10, and then the top 3 finishing positions. You get, the higher up you finish, the more points you get. So, that's what I would do. I would award much, much more points for winning the race. If you want to reward winners? Reward them by giving them more freaking points. It's not hard. That's how you do it. And that's how you build up a gap in the point standings. And this is how you would award consistency. Like if you finish in the top 3 a lot, that's a lot of points you're going to get. So, and this is something that I am considering. This is something that I want to discuss with Tyler LaVallette when we do our Friday podcast. We are planning to do one on Friday, and this is something I would love to do with him and talk about it. I'd love to see what he thinks we should change, if anything. So what I'm explaining to you is what I think NASCAR could do to better its format. More points for higher finishing positions, especially for winning races. That will solve a lot of problems, and that will ramp up the pressure on race teams. But that'll also, what this will also do, and you know what? I'm a proponent of this. I'm for rewarding somebody for the hard work they put in for 36 races. Not just the final 10 races. All 36. All the way. They do the best they can. They work their asses off for it. Then they earn that championship, and it will show on the track. Put all the work. Because remember, NASCAR is a team sport. And it's not just the driver. It's the team. The cars, each car that the team owns, those are individual teams themselves. A lot of members behind it, too. Changing that format would also reward them as well. Or would encourage them to work harder outside the box. Sure, you might see some more cheating, but that's common in NASCAR, sadly. But still, I think NASCAR needs to do away with the playoff format because it's illegitimate. Simple points and reward more for the winner. And give a lot of points for second and third. And, it's simple stuff. Now, I'm sure NASCAR could do a better job than me kind of deciding how to balance out the gaps between finishing positions and the points rewarded. Okay, that's where I'll admit I'm struggling. But I think with that idea, it would bring back this notion that you need to be consistent to win a championship. Just like in IndyCar and Formula One. It's the way to go. And you could still have exciting points races. You could still have exciting championship battles. Formula One and IndyCar, we've seen that. Because anyone can have a bad day. And then anyone who has a good day gets rewarded and can make up those gaps, So that's what I would do, you know? So back to the old points format that NASCAR used to use, but reward winners more. And like top 3, reward them more with more points. Because it is so hard to maintain consistency for 36 races. It's as simple as that. That is what I would do. And when I meet up with Tyler on Friday and when we do our podcast together, I will do my best to go more in depth about what I would do or how I would balance out the points more if we do indeed talk about this subject. So, let's see. Am I forgetting anything else? Oh, there is one more thing. Here's one more thing I would do, and they do this in IndyCar, and I would do this for NASCAR's biggest races, like the Daytona 500, the Southern 500, and also maybe then the finale at Phoenix, and maybe even the Bristol Night Race. For those 4 races, I would double points. Double points. Let's do it. That is how. So this is what I would propose. If NASCAR was to change the format, this is what I would do. This is my take on a new points format for NASCAR. And that way, because you know what? At the end of the day, I feel for NASCAR fans, and they deserve a good racing product and a legitimate champion to represent the sport. And Tyler Lavalette, you too. You, my man, deserve to see good racing in this sport this motorsport that you've grown to love so much. You deserve the best of NASCAR. All right, on to this day in sports history. And on this day, the 13th of November, 1994, title contenders Michael Schumacher, F1's great one, and Damon Hill famously collide on lap 35 of the season-ending Australian Grand Prix in Adelaide. Schumacher wins his first F1 Drivers' Championship by 1 point from Hill. How about that? It is a crash. You crash out, and yet you still win the title by 1 point. That's one way to start your legendary career. All right, sports fans, that's it for this week's Waxon Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching. This is Jake Waxman from Two Guys Talk Sports, wishing you all a good week.